David, just to start with team news, did Michael Keane come through okay against Brentford?
He did, yeah. He came through fine. Obviously, we've got to be careful because of 3 games in 6 days, but no, he came through fine. I was really pleased because I was worried that he wouldn't.
Are you getting anyone back this week?
No, we're not getting anybody back this week, no.
Not even for the cup game?
I don't know yet.
And I just wondered then, how difficult is it to manage minutes of players, manage their workload? What kind of a job are you having to do to manage the workload, given we've spoken about the players that are missing as well?
Well, you talk a lot about the minutes, but we don't have European football, so we're not as bad as several clubs who have to find the players who might play in Europe as well. So yeah, we're in the schedule. Our culture in this country means that we've got a lot of games around Christmas and New Year. I'm certainly used to it, and most of the players are. Might be a few of the new players not used to having so many games around this time of the year, but I think it's part of the job. You have to. You're saying manage the minutes. I think we're having to play what players we think are right and put them out. But in the back of our mind, yes, we are conscious that we're quite light in the squad and we'll need to be careful, and we're not overdoing the training at the moment, just trying to keep the players ticking over, really.
I just wonder as well for you, is there a balancing act of wanting league points, but obviously I'd imagine you'd also like a cup run as well, and you've got the FA Cup coming up at the weekend.
All you can ever do is take one game at a time, really, so all we can do is focus on Wolves and go from there, really.
I appreciate it's repetitive asking about transfers, but again, how likely do you think you are to add to the squad during this window? Is the market even proving difficult?
No, I think that we're probably more unlikely than likely, but I wouldn't say that completely, because obviously we're looking out there to see what there is and we can see if we can get something. But I just wouldn't want to get everybody's hopes up that if I say likely, then you might be thinking that means that we're on with something. We're looking at some players and we're looking if we could add to it. We will do, but we've been quite careful with it.
I suppose if it were to happen, you're thinking later in the window.
Ideally, always you'd want it early in the window. With a bit of luck, we'll get a couple of boys back from AFCON midway through January. But I think if you look at it, I don't think there's many transfers going on, really, if we're being honest. I think you're asking the question because there's nothing else to talk about, and you keep asking the question about transfers because there just doesn't seem to be an awful lot of business at this moment going on.
At the same time as well, and I appreciate it was only a cameo, but how encouraged were you by what Harrison Armstrong produced when he came on against
I thought Harrison looked like somebody who's been playing football regular, looked as if he's up to speed. He's been playing against good sides in the Championship, and his own team Preston have been competitive near the top of the league there, so I thought he came on and done fine. At the game was probably about 70 minutes in, and it might have been we had a little bit more of the ball at that time in the game, which with Brentford were sitting off the game a little bit, so but pleased with how he done really well.
Is he someone you think is ready to start the Premier League game?
I think he's probably ready to start because he's more ready to start games because of his the amount he's played at Preston, really, the games he's had there and the good work they've done with him. So he's physically in a condition to play games. I've got no doubt about that.
After getting their first win, how dangerous are Wolves as an opponent, you feel?
Well, I think every team in the Premier League is a dangerous opponent at the moment. I think when you look at the league, you can come up against any size and you can find yourself having a problem. But I think Wolves have picked up a little bit, certainly since Rob's come in now and where they've started. So we'll treat every game the same, and we know we're in for a difficult game.
Just finally from me and away from the game, just can I get your thoughts on the change of manager at Manchester United? Obviously Darren Fletcher going in interim charge as well, but Ruben Amorim losing his job.
Look, it's big talk, obviously. I thought you might have said, what do you think of the change at Celtic, or what do you think of the change at Aberdeen? But you're mentioning Manchester United, and I think it's a little bit unfair that all us managers have to sort of talk about other managers losing their job. So, look, Manchester United is a great job, difficult job, as I well know, and I'm sorry to see a manager lose his job.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Simon at Premier League Productions.
Talking to one of your players after the game who mentioned about a tired performance and then quickly sort of corrected himself and didn't want to use it as an excuse. Mm-hmm. But how do you get out of that, maybe that mentality? Is there anything that you can do apart from rest?
Yeah, look, I think that what happens is the game sometimes changes that. We'd started the game pretty well and we had a couple of chances, one off the line, and the keeper made a good save. But then we gave one away, and it just seemed to sort of change the whole feeling within the stadium and on the pitch. Actually, we tried to alter it at half time to get that more energy in that and maybe a better feel about it. I don't think it was absolute tiredness, it's physical tiredness. I think it was probably a bit of mental tiredness when they were saying, "My goodness, here we've gone behind, and probably in the opening 10 minutes we hadn't deserved to do that." But look, we go again. As I said, it's the culture, it's the challenges you have around this time of the year, and we have to get ready for a sort of midweek Premier League game.
Can you change that, the sort of the mental aspect of it?
Well, if you look at how we played against Nottingham Forest, why did the mental side change to a defeat? You know, why did we change that mentality from how well we done there? Small.
Have you looked at that?
Yeah, I've looked at why we played very well away from home. At home, we need to start getting some more victories. We need to find a way of getting more victories. But I do believe that, like, small margins, I really think, if we'd got the first goal, it may have altered the outcome of the game. But obviously, the result would tell you that we were well beaten on the day, and I don't disagree with that.
So in terms of that, then, in Hill Dickinson Stadium, after such a great start to life in that stadium, I think it's 4 defeats in the last 6 now. So has something changed? Because the stadium's so great, the welcome that the opposing team gets, actually they get a buoyancy from it.
Well, I always thought that everybody would enjoy coming. I think everybody enjoys going to play at a new stadium and the chance to see it. I don't think many people enjoyed going to Goodison or playing at Goodison over the years. I think that was not something that they really liked. But that's our new stadium. But the other part of it, actually, we started well. Quite often when you go to a new stadium, you don't start well. Sometimes it's more difficult to get results. But we did start the season very well in the stadium. But I think it was always going to be the case that we were never going to get through it perfect. That was for sure. And we'd like to better than what we're doing at the moment.
And just finally, if I may, as far as Wolves are concerned, I know you've mentioned the good job that he's done since he's gone in there. What do you look as the biggest danger tomorrow night?
I think Wolves probably gaining in confidence and gaining a bit more self-belief. I think they've come away from Old Trafford with a draw. I think they were very unlucky at Anfield, I think so. I think maybe even away from home they might be able to play with less pressure on them than maybe they do with their home support. So I think it's I don't think Wolves were ever as poorly as where they were earlier on. I think they've certainly picked up now, and Rob Edwards seems to have got them going in the right direction.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. We'll go to Julia at Radio News side.
Yeah.
Just on that with the stadium, is there anything that you would like from the home fans that might be able to help? If you say it did change, did feel that the atmosphere changed as soon as you went behind, is there anything you would want from that?
No, when I was saying that, I was suggesting that it was more to do with the team. No, we looked as if we sort of buckled a wee bit when we went a goal down, when we shouldn't have for sort of the next 20-30 minutes. I didn't think we had a chance right on half time, but they had a couple of chances as well. No, I think the stadium's been magnificent. The support's been fantastic. As always, we're always saying, hey, keep your voices loud and keep supporting the team. I mean, considering where we've been in recent years, we should be right behind the team. They deserve it. The players deserve the support because of where they've been. But obviously, we get support when we play well and we win and we keep progressing. We're trying to progress all the time. We're trying to get better, and we have to try and do that. But this is a little bit of a difficult period for us, and I hope that the Everton supporters will understand that as well. A bit short of players, couple away at AFCON as well. It's just making life a little bit more awkward for us.
On that, when you came in a year ago, obviously it was getting away from the bottom 3 as quickly as possible. That was the task, and there was pressure around that. But is this a more difficult task then, given it was a small squad anyway? As you say, there's a lot of people missing for a multitude of reasons. Is this the most difficult spell for you?
No, I think the most difficult spell was when I took over, to be honest, because I thought, could we be good enough to stay up? How do we keep the group of players up? And we had quite a few injuries there, and it's a similar time. As you said, it's just about a year since I came back. We had quite a lot of injuries when I first came into the club as well. We've got a few injuries just now. But also with the amount of trading we had to do in the summer, I think we had about 10 or 12 players out of contract. It was never going to be that we could bring in another 10 or 12 players. It wasn't ever going to be as easy as that. But I think in the main up to now we've done pretty good. And we've only really just started to feel the pinch a little bit. In the main, we went to Nottingham Forest with, a lot of the players out, got a brilliant result. I remember going to Newcastle, the last game of last season, with players out, So it's not as if we haven't done it before, but there comes a point where you can only keep doing it for so long, where you need to get your better players back, and you need to have enough depth in the squad to cover suspensions and all the different aspects. So I think this year, I think for Everton Football Club, I think it's been a good year. I think they've done a lot of good things, certainly since January to January.
There was Beto and Barry who played together in the game a couple of days ago. Is there a plan ever to start them together? Because it looked like it was working quite well. They both got a goal each.
Hey, maybe. I wouldn't say it's the first thing in my agenda. I felt as if I needed to try something, and it needed relatively drastic treatment. I felt at half time to see if I could shake us out of it. It didn't work that way. It went the opposite way. But both of them got a goal, which I hope both their confidence, and I think that's Tierno got 2 and 2 games, and Beto getting a goal, got a good goal, and he's just beginning to look a bit much more like himself. So hopefully they're going to find a bit of form in the second half of the season.
With Harrison back, I know you've said you were really pleased with how he looked, and he's had that experience at Preston. Is there a plan can you see him staying? Has there been any discussions? Is it he'll stay now with you, or could he go back to Preston or go somewhere else?
No, we're having regular discussions with Preston because they really like him and they really want him back. And my regular discussions with him are, how we need him. If we get players back from injury, suspension, from the AFCON, etc., it might mean that we're not quite in as need of him as when we get these players back. But he had a good contribution. He had a great contribution. He will in the future have a big contribution. So we'll see how it goes in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
We're asking about injuries more than we will. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. We'll go to Carl at the Press Association.
Hi, David.
Hi, Carol.
Just a quick one. You said transfers this month are unlikely, and we know you've been operating with quite a small squad anyway, and this month has obviously particularly tested it. You'll get some back by the end of the month, whatever. But is that a situation where you're almost going to have to be lucky in the second half of the season to get through the second half of the season with no reinforcements because of you're halfway through the season, injuries start to bite, suspensions start to bite. You've only got a small squad. You've got to make sure everyone's available.
Yeah, well, that's what we've had in the front half, and in the main we've been able to cope with it quite well with that group. So my feeling is that we might have to cope again. Hey, as I said the word unlikely, but it could be likely. So I'm trying to be right with it. That it's not as if we're not looking. It's not as if we're trying to add to the squad. We are. Adding to the squad might help, might not help. It only helps if we think we're getting players who can really contribute right away. So we'll keep looking. And we have got a smallish squad, but we knew that at the start. But that's why the boys going away to the AFCON make it look. But it's the same for a lot of clubs. For example, I think Sunderland will get 5 or 6 away, something like that. So we're not too bad with only 2 away. But when your squad is relatively tight, then it starts to have an effect on you. And then we picked up Seamus Coleman picked up an injury. Kieran Dewsbury Hall picked up an injury at the time. Charlie Alcaraz picked up an injury, and before you know it, you look as if you're pretty threadbare. But for most of the time, we had enough squad. We had enough players. Most of the time, we've had plenty of players. There'll come a few times in the season where quite often you're a little short.
And I guess with the summer market usually offering more opportunities than in January, it's almost a risk you have to balance. If you don't spend it in January, you've got something to come in the summer, which when you've got better opportunities.
Yeah. I think our ownership as well wants us to be sort of really clean and tidy with everything we do regarding, they don't want us. I think Angus put it in his programme notes suggesting that we wouldn't be doing any sort of quick fixes type things. So I think that we'll still look to see if we need something, and we are doing that. But if we don't get anything, then we'll try and stick to the plan try and keep building. We had a decent build in the summer, which is moved us up from where we were. I think, as I said many times, I think the jumps and the improvement will come more gradually at Everton rather than be big deals, really.
Thanks, Carl. Any further questions in the open section before we move on? No? Okay, thank you.